watching men in powdered wigs discover their favorite kink, owning people. And brother, they went hard. 1 in 3 don't survive the crossing. The ledger still looks great, though. Funny how that works when the cargo can't file a complaint. By the late 1700s, owning slaves isn't a hobby anymore. Entire economies are bent over this thing, gripping it tight, refusing to let go. Because the money? Obscene. The kind that makes respectable men do very unrespectable things and still sleep fine. Colony by colony, crop by crop, law by law. What started as one plantation owner's labor solution is now a fully erect system, rigid, organized, and expanding into places it was never supposed to reach. Because once you taste that kind of profit, you don't pull out, you go deeper. For the first few decades, it's almost casual. A handful of people working land that isn't theirs, under laws that are still figuring themselves out. Some even earn freedom, eventually. But then someone does the math. And brother, once these men do the math, they cannot stop touching themselves about it. Because tobacco is printing money. And money, it turns out, makes otherwise unremarkable men feel enormously powerful. The kind of powerful that rewrites laws to protect the feeling. So, they rewrite the laws. Virginia, 1662. Slavery is now hereditary. Your mother's status is now your status forever. These men just found a way to make their investment reproduce itself. They're not landowners anymore, they're architects, and they are very, very pleased with what they've built. By 1700, Virginia's sitting at around 6,000 enslaved people. By 1750, over 200,000. You want to understand that jump? Picture a man who's had one taste of obscene profit and has absolutely zero interest in moderation. The kind of guy who finishes and immediately starts planning round 2 before anyone else has caught their breath. And every time someone pushes back, and people do push back, the system doesn't flinch. It doubles down. 1712, New York. 25 enslaved people fight back. The response is 21 executions. Some burned alive, bodies left on public display. The message these men send is loud and deeply revealing. We will burn the whole thing down before we let go of it. That's a man who knows, somewhere underneath the wig, that what he's holding on to is wrong, and has decided not to care. Then, 1776 happens. And here's where it gets embarrassing for everybody involved. You've got men standing up in Philadelphia, sweating through their waistcoats, delivering speeches about liberty and natural rights with the fire of people who genuinely mean it. And also own people. The cognitive dissonance in this room is so thick you could chew it. These are men experiencing a full philosophical awakening about human freedom while simultaneously running the mental gymnastics of whether it applies to them specifically and deciding, yes, just them. It's the founding father equivalent of a guy who lectures his friend about honesty and then lies to every woman he's ever dated, loudly, in writing, that gets framed and put in museums. So they write the Declaration. Beautiful document, really is. And then they go home and protect their investment. The 3/5 compromise. Enslaved people count as 3/5 of a person, not enough to have rights, just enough to give their owners more seats in Congress. These men just figured out how to use the people they've been oppressing to gain more political power to keep oppressing them. It's the legislative equivalent of finishing and then asking the other person to do the dishes. They're so proud of this, they write it into the Constitution. Then in 1793, Eli Whitney invents the cotton gin. And if the slave economy was bad before, it now becomes something genuinely monstrous. Short staple cotton, previously too labor intensive to bother with, suddenly makes every acre in the South worth a fortune. Demand for enslaved labor explodes. The plantation owners, who were already rich, start getting insanely rich. The kind of rich that makes them write long, pompous letters about the natural order of things while their wife sleeps in a separate bedroom and their accountant does all the actual work. These men discover that nothing inflates an ego quite like money you didn't earn through anything resembling effort or decency. By 1800, there are 900,000 enslaved people. By 1820, 1.5 million. These numbers aren't statistics, they're people. And the men profiting off them are busy building mansions and naming their children after Roman emperors. 1808, the transatlantic slave trade is officially banned. You'd think that's the system losing. It isn't. These men are far too committed to accept a technicality. Instead, they build a domestic slave trade. Can't import people? Fine. You sell them internally. Rip families apart. March human beings in chains from Virginia to Mississippi. These men just got told they couldn't use the front door and immediately started using the back, grinning the whole time like they'd invented something clever, patting themselves on the back for their resourcefulness, writing each other letters about it over brandy. Historians call it the Second Middle Passage. The men who ran it called it commerce. By 1860, there are nearly 4 million enslaved people. Cotton is over half of American exports. These men have built something so load-bearing, so deeply inside the structure of the entire economy, that when anyone suggests removing it, they act like you've suggested removing a part of their anatomy. Personally, with a rusty instrument. And look, they've been riding this thing for 200 years. It's the longest relationship any of them have ever had. They're not just going to pull out because someone asks nicely. When Lincoln gets elected, just on a platform of not spreading slavery to new states, not even ending it, 7 states secede before he's even inaugurated. That's a man who spent decades loudly insisting he could stop whenever he wanted. The second someone actually believes him, he loses his mind completely, flips the table, and storms out like someone just canceled his subscription to the one thing keeping him functional. Their own succession documents say it plainly. No spin, we are doing this to preserve slavery. These men, who spent decades calling it a necessary institution, a civilizing force, a biblical arrangement, a gift to all involved, drop every pretense the second it's threatened and show you exactly what was underneath the whole time. Turns out the powdered wig was the only dignified thing in the room. A business, their business, and they will burn the country down before they give it up. These are men who would rather set the bed on fire than admit what they've been doing in it. By 1865, the 13th Amendment passes. Slavery is legally over. And here's the part that doesn't make the textbooks. These men don't disappear. They don't retire in shame. They don't even have the decency to be embarrassed. They just tuck everything in, straighten the pants, and regroup. Black codes, convict leasing, sharecropping. You free people into a system with no land, no capital, no legal protection, and then criminalize poverty. Then lease the convicted back out as labor. Same transaction, new outfit. These men just discovered that if you do the exact same thing, but call it justice instead of slavery, half the country will defend it for you for free. They couldn't perform with the original setup anymore, so they rebuilt the stage somewhere darker, charged admission, and called it the criminal justice system. Wealth gaps don't appear randomly. Generational poverty doesn't generate itself. Systems built over 2 centuries to move wealth in one direction don't go soft just because a law says so. The men who built this are gone, but they left the plumbing, and the plumbing still works exactly the way they designed it. So if you're sitting there thinking, this is ancient history, you're inside it. You've always been inside it. The only question is whether you're looking at it or pretending the pipes aren't running right under your feet. What part of this hits differently than what they taught you in school? Drop it in the comments. And if you're not subscribed yet, what are you doing? Hit the button. This is just chapter 2. It gets worse, a lot worse, before it gets better.